All right. In this video, I'm going to show you how to insert a graph into a Google document. For the most part, these instructions will apply to everything you do this semester. Of course, the different experiments might call for different types of graphs, so these instructions won't be exactly the same for every experiment we do in lab this semester, but generally speaking, it's the same. So let's get started. Again, let's assume you're looking at a lab. And I've just went ahead and pretended like I had already done the lab, right? And I've got all this data. Here I have the average height and the average finger span of very short people. And I have the average height and the average finger span of short people. And I have the average height and the average finger span of medium people, so on and so forth. I have all this data here. And now I need to insert it into a graph. As it says right here, question 6, create a bar graph. So let me show you how to do that. Now, I don't want to give anything away. I want to show you how to make a bar graph, but I don't necessarily want to tell you in this video, I don't know, like how you should label it. And you'll see what I mean when we get there. So for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to pretend like this data is not from the experiment you're going to do. I'm going to pretend like this is this is an experiment about trees. Like, let's say I went out and measured a bunch of trees, and I gave them different categories: very short trees, medium trees, tall trees, very tall trees, extra tall trees, right? And the same criteria. Any tree that is any tree that's between 137 centimeters tall and 146.9 centimeters tall would be considered very short. And let's say I measured all those trees of this category, and the average height of those trees was 137 centimeters. And the average diameter, like, think about like the roundness of how big around a tree trunk is. Let's say that that's what that is, right? So the average tree in this category was 137 centimeters tall, and the average diameter, like the average was around 5 centimeters around, right? These are completely made up numbers. It probably wouldn't be like that in nature, but I'm just going to use that as an example. So now to the part that you need to know. As it says right here, like I said, create a bar graph to present your data. You're going to use all the instructions that you already read way up here, right? It tells you basically what you need to know to present any kind of graph. This part tells you how to do a scatter plot graph. This part tells you how to do a bar graph. And you are going to be doing a bar graph. So anyway, like I said, right down here, it says to create a bar graph at the bottom of the document. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do. Before I show you how to do this, I will point out too, it says right here too, you can use graph paper. So if you're in lab and you want to do this by hand, ask me. I'll have a whole pile of graph paper, and you can just do this by hand using the instructions that I showed you above, all those different rules, and you can do it by hand. And you can, if you do that by hand, you can take a picture of it and you can insert it as a document, or like I said here, and like I'm about to show you, you can insert it as a Google Doc. So really quickly, let's go down here. I'll show you how to do it. So here we are at the bottom of the worksheet. So I'm gonna click, there we go. I have my cursor here. What we want to do is insert a graph. Google doesn't call it a graph, it calls it a chart. But either way, we go up here to insert. And we go down here to chart because we need a chart. Like I said, we need a column chart, right? The lab calls it a bar graph, but Google Docs calls it a column chart. So here we go. Click column chart, and it brings up some random thing that has absolutely nothing to do with your lab. Point scored is some sort of basketball thing, maybe. So we need to fix that, right? Oh, it's usually, as you can see at the bottom, it said edit in sheets, but that went away. I didn't click it in time. So I'm going to click up here. What I did was I clicked on this graph, and in the top right, I have these options. It says linked chart options, right? So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to hit open source. There we go. And this brings me to where we insert the data and how we arrange it. So here we go. I'm going to wait for this to pop up because right there we go. That's what we need. So that's how you start the process, right? Now you see here it says period 1 and period 2 and team 1, team 2, team 3. Obviously that has nothing to do with your experiment. This is just the default graph that Google Docs puts in. So first of all, we have different categories, right? We have very short, medium, tall, very tall, extra tall, all that, right? But we don't have different periods, right? Because this isn't a basketball game. So first thing we can definitely do is get rid of period 2, because we only need one bar for each category, right? So I highlighted it, and I'm going to put delete column. Good, don't need that. Also, the whole period 1 thing. No, we don't need that, because we're not dealing with periods, right? What we're dealing with here is we're dealing with the height categories, right? I'm going to shorten it, because really you don't even need to type that in if you don't want. I'm just typing it there for your own knowledge. So, and again, we're not dealing with team 1, team 2, team 3, team 4, so on and so forth. So I'm going to erase all those. What we're dealing with is very short people. We're dealing with short people. We are dealing with medium people. We are dealing with, excuse me, I forgot. I said I was going to use trees as an example. So anyway, yeah, very short trees, medium trees, tall trees, very tall, and then, of course, this is in my way, so I'm going to drag it. I'm going to click it and drag it down so it's out of my way. Very tall, and then extra tall. Extra tall. So there we go. I have all the categories that we need, and then I can scroll down here and see, sure enough, yep, it's all right there. Very short, medium, tall, very tall, extra tall. Just to be sure, I'm going to refer back to the actual lab worksheet and make sure that I've got the right categories. Very short, medium, tall, very tall. Yep, that's exactly what it should be. So that part's done, right? I have fixed this part. I have fixed the x-axis to have the right categories. Now I need the right numbers. Very short. So let's see. The very short trees, right? In your case, people. In your case, you're talking about finger span, but in my hypothetical example, I'm going to talk about the width of the tree. Very short, the average was 5 centimeters. So I'm going to write 5. Oops, 5. And then under short, I have an average of 5.5. Excuse me, let me back up. For very short, the average was 5.0, not 5. Mathematically, it's the same thing, but technically it's 5.0. All right, and then I said short, the average was 5.5. Medium, we have medium here, the average was 5.8. 5.8. Tall, the average was 6. 6.0, even though it won't let me keep it that way. I'm going to type it that way, 6.0. Very tall, we have 5.9 as the average. And then finally, extra tall, we have 6.3. So there we go. I have now inserted all the data, right? So I can see that the average width of the very short trees was somewhere between 4 and 6. The average width of a tree for short trees was somewhere, again, between 4 and 6. So there we go. I'm done with that part. Now I need to worry about the titles, right? Obviously, points scored, that was the default that Google Classroom gave us. This had points scored, has nothing to do with this experiment. So what you're going to do to fix those is you click up here, click on it, right? And then at the top right, you have these 3 buttons, or 3 dots. You click on that, and we're going to edit the chart. You can see that's the top option. All right, and then the chart editor comes up. And what we need to do is fix the title. And also notice that there's no label for the x-axis and there's no label for the y-axis. So we need to fix that. So here we go. We go up here. You see there's 2 options. There's setup and there's customize. So let's go to customize. What we want to do, again, like I said, we need to change the title and the axis. So I'm going to click this. And it's automatically on chart title. So let's go ahead and do that first. And again, I'm doing this hypothetically. What you will put, nothing hypothetical about it, is you will put figure 1. Right? And then you're going to, after that, describe your data. And for me, I'm going to put, I don't know, let's see here. average width of trees from different, trees of, maybe belonging to. Of course, this part doesn't really matter for you because this part is hypothetical. And like I said, I'm hypothetically dealing with trees. You will actually be dealing with humans. But anyway, average width of trees in different height. I misspelled that. Categories. Let me go ahead and fix that. Not that it matters. Okay, so there we go. Figure 1, average width of trees in different height categories. Now, obviously, this doesn't give too much data, right? It just says very short, short, medium, tall, very tall, all that, blah, blah, blah. So I have two options. I can either change these to actually give the actual, put like very short, colon, 137 through 146.9, right? I can either do that for each one of these, or I can put it here, right, in my chart title. And in this case, maybe, let's see, categories. And I'll put period, and I'll put, very short equals 137. Maybe I'll just copy and paste. There we go. Copy that, bring it over here, and paste it. Excuse me. Bring it over here and paste it. All right, and I can just keep doing that for each one. Very short equals that. Short equals, and then put it all out there. So the point is, when someone reads your graph, they need to know what these things mean. So there we go. I mean, for the sake of keeping this video short, I'm not going to fill all that out. But let's just assume I'm done here, right? Figure 1, average width of trees in different height categories. And then I'm going to explain what each height category means. So there we go. I'm done giving my graph a title. I still, however, need to give the x-axis a title and the y-axis a title. So while I'm here, still under the same area, under chart and axis titles, I'm going to click here where it says chart title because we're done with that. So I'm going to click it, and I'm going to go to horizontal axis title, right? The horizontal axis, that's the up and down. Excuse me, that's the bottom. The left to right, that is the x-axis. So here we have very short, short, medium, tall, blah, 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 right? All that stuff. So I can put tree height categories. Also, I should mention, if I wanted to, this might be the time to put what it means, right? Tree height categories. Very short equals this, short equals that, blah, blah, blah. This could be another place where you could put that as opposed to the graph title. It's your choice. So there we go. Now I'm done with the x-axis. Now let's do the y-axis, right? The vertical one. Click over here, vertical axis. And again, you're dealing with something else. You're dealing with finger spans. But in my hypothetical situation, I'm going to put average width of trunk. There we go. So now I'm done. I've got my title, I have my y-axis title label, my x-axis label. I have all the categories. Yep, and that's it, really. Now, there are things you can do if you want to make them better. If you want to toy around, as long as you do this, this is the bare minimum. You'll get full credit if you do this, the bare minimum. But if you want, you can do some things to improve it. Like, for example, look at this. Between very short and short, I can tell the width is shorter or smaller for very short than short, but I can't see how much, right? All I know is that all three of these are somewhere between 4 and 6, but that doesn't give me too much information. So maybe I'll go here to grid lines and ticks. Let me just count maybe. Nah, you know what? I've never done this with Google Google Docs. There we go. That helps a little bit. So, and again, you don't have to do all this. That's why I'm not giving you specific instructions on how to do it. But I put some minor grid lines so I have a better idea of what it is. So anyway, that's how you do it. As always, if you have any questions, excuse me, before I finish, you can see here, I've completed doing what I needed to do, pretty sure. So now I'll go back to the document to make sure it's done and it looks the way it needs to and looks the way it does. there, and ooh, look at that. Notice it still looks like it looks when I started it, so I'm not done. Apparently I have one more step right here. So again, I clicked on it, and I think I need to hit this button that says update. Now that I've updated all that information, there we go. And now we are done. So that is how you add a graph to a Google document. If you have any questions, let me know.